Today we're going to talk about one of the most fundamental things in D&D and other tabletop games that is still kind of complex and has tons of nuance. We're talking about different types of movement. Welcome back, everybody, to Slow Your Roll. I am Cody,
I'm Alex.
and we're going to get right into this thing.
And in order of least to most interesting, we're going to start off with walking. Walk, run, jump, dash. It's your basic movement that everyone has access to. You're going to be able to go about 30 feet usually, unless you're some of the smaller races, they get kneecapped.
Yeah, cut it 20 or so.
Right. Maybe 5. In all reality, everybody knows how this works. You do get a dash, which would be able to extend your movement twice of what it was. Or maybe you can jump, which gives you just a little bit of extra over a gap or something like that. But when it really comes to exemplifying movement, the basic movement speed, I say Tabaxi is the 100% winner. I think everybody knows about the Feline Agility that Tabaxi has that essentially turns you into the Flash whenever you activate it.
Literally, especially considering that you've got 6 seconds to do all the crazy movement they can do. I mean, the Feline Agility ability literally doubles their movement in a turn, and they can do that every time as long as they spend a turn without moving.
Yeah, seriously. And like, if you guys really think about that, that's 120 feet in a movement of 6 seconds, which is like close to Usain Bolt kind of time.
Yeah, basically. Crazy fast, and you could do it kind of often.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, that is if you're a monk and you dash. So you do all the things you can do, but still, that's crazy. Like, that's so fast.
Yeah, there's always those little things that you could add on to it. And I'm sure there's some sort of magic item that'll probably extend that 3-4 times more than that.
Oh, yeah. Then you'll actually be basically just teleporting.
Right. But if you did want to think about monsters for your game that exemplify the movement speed, I love to think about Velociraptors. It's literally in the name, and they've got a 50 movement speed. So it's definitely going to outrun all of your players if they're not Tabaxis.
Yeah, exactly. They also have the pounce ability, so like if they're moving 20 feet, they can immediately do extra damage to someone that they're hitting too.
Yes.
They're a nice example of how to maximize the walking and run speed movement style.
Totally agree. And if you were to add that to a type of person, that would be really cool. Add that onto your Tabaxi. They also get a pounce. That's like a new feat that you just came up with. I love it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Moving on to number 2, climbing. Movement type of climbing. Some races can do it by default. Other races technically can't, but they also can because it's just climbing as long as it's a climbable surface.
Yeah.
This is one of those weird ones that has a lot of nuance and maybe even confusion behind it.
No, for real. Because, like, I have a climbing speed and I have claws, like, as a Tabaxi or whatever. So, like, I could probably climb that tree, but I'm probably not going to be able to climb that stone face wall.
Exactly. So with certain races, they might have better opportunities to be able to climb their way out of situations or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are skipping the whole player aspect of it, man, coolest monster I can think of right out the gate for climbing is really any monster with spider climb.
True.
So any spider.
Right.
And people are scared of spiders, so make sure to use that on people that are scared of spiders at your table.
Of course.
Yeah. Well, one of the first ones that's really cool in concept is like a phase spider, right?
Okay.
Simple, fair enough. They can hop into the ethereal plane and hide from the players or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But if the players don't know that when you're introducing them, you got a spider, they meet them on the ground, and then poof, they disappear into the ethereal plane. They reappear on the ceiling, and the players are like, where is it?
Right.
You could even set this up as like a kind of a trap with like a saving throw sort of situation. Okay. Where when it reappears, it's on the ceiling and it forces a perception check from all the players. If they all biff it, then maybe the phase spider gets a surprise round.
That would be pretty cool.
It'd be dirty. But it's not all up to spiders. Technically, this is one of those things that all the players could do. I mean, if you've got a rope, you've got a climb speed.
True.
It's pretty easy to make a grappling hook by, fixing some daggers or a great axe to a rope and then hucking that thing over a wall. You all have a climb speed now. Easy peasy.
Yes, definitely. But I mean, if somebody does actually have a climb speed, maybe they're better at it.
Yeah, exactly.
So one more movement that everybody has is swimming. No, not everybody has a swim speed, but unless your character's scared of water, they should likely be able to swim. But just because you can swim doesn't mean that you're not literally a fish out of water. There are so many better things in the waters. They probably have combat utilities like water breathing, tremor sense, blind sight, and all of those things would really exemplify a swimmer.
Yeah, I mean, if a monster's got some of those and your players don't, immediately the playing field is completely unleveled.
Yeah, for real. And I swear there's like thousands of modules that include water combat, so you might want to brush up on some of your monsters like the Kuatoa, one of my favorite fishy races that just happen to be water bandits. They're really fun to play, and they have a heightened sense of perception too, so ain't nobody sneaking up on them.
Yeah, those silly wet piranha-headed goblins, they have all kinds of stuff going for them. They've got the slippery trait, making them incredibly difficult to grapple. But if the players wisen up, they also have sunlight sensitivity. So if they can pull them out into onto the land or whatever else, they got a good chance.
And I do also think they're like good with nets somehow.
Yeah.
Even though that's not in D&D.
Right. Nets, spears, they got a bite on you. Like I said, just icky little piranha-headed goblin water monster fish.
Right. And just to be clear, nets are in D&D. Being good at them is not.
Exactly. Exactly. And not too different from the whole swim speed thing. We're at number 4 with swimming in the earth. All right, the movement style is burrow.
Okay.
Easy enough. Some of the things about burrowing that's interesting is in some cases it can give you immediate cover.
And it's pretty unique. Kind of like everything can't fly. Not everything's going to be able to burrow.
That's
it's
true.
A lot different than swim, climb, and all the other ones.
100%. This is easily something that your players probably won't see coming if you give them a monster that can burrow.
Yes.
A lot of times with burrowing, it's not as big of a movement speed, like it's not as far or fast. And a lot of the times, if it's with monsters, they might even burrow kind of shallow so that they can continue to attack when they have their opportunities. And of course, anything that has a burrow speed is kind of in trouble unless they have some sort of tremor sense or blind sight or something like that. I mean, it's either that or you're completely blind, and that's not great either.
And this is one of the movement speeds that does not apply to the characters whatsoever. But what if it did? I think this would be really cool if you had some sort of player character who was like, I don't know, part mole, or they had a little bit of armadillo in them, or like, who knows, maybe they're like the blind monk, and like, that's just how they're able to get around. They have a burrow speed and tremor sense. So it could be kind of cool. And if you were able to use the same kind of like movements that the monsters were, that would be so cool if you like dove into their burrow cave and then like you were burrowing after them and then you end up in the Underdark or something like that.
That would be really cool. There's not enough times I drag my players into the Underdark. That'd be a good way to do it. But yeah, I totally get the blind monk trope. I mean, if anyone in Avatar could burrow, it's definitely Toph.
Right.
Come on.
And speaking of Avatar, a mole, maybe even a badger mole, might be one of the best things to exemplify burrowing, maybe even in your game.
Yeah, 100%. Giant mole in D&D is a fearsome creature, and yeah, it's one of those things that, like you said earlier, can totally get the players off guard if they're not seeing it coming, you know, just literally emerge from under them. Boom.
And that leaves us with one of the best movement speeds you can possibly have. The most OP one, I might say, is flying. You're an Aarakocra, you're an Owlin, you're probably pissing off your DM.
Oh yeah, 100%.
And if you're not one of those things, you can get a magic item and become one of those things. There's magic carpets, flying rings, boots that have wings on them, and so many other things that could replace your horse, cart, or anything else like that. Flying has so many utilities that I promise you I'm not going to be able to think of all of them.
I know what you mean. Flying's one of those things that's like, wow, we really made it to the big leagues. You know, like it's an aspiration to some degree of the players to get. And it's not really beatable until they get to teleport.
Yeah, seriously. And you know, there really are a lot of monsters in D&D that can fly too. So it's not like if you give flying to your players, it's going to break the game entirely. But maybe you should show them what flying looks like if the monster can actually fly.
Oh yeah, we're talking one of the most ruthless, brutal monsters there are in D&D. As long as the DM runs them without being too nice to the players. Dragons. The fact is, dragons are mostly beatable because the game master or dungeon master allows them to be beaten. Because realistically, we're talking like an adult red dragon. Kind of middle of the road, maybe even a little less than middle of the road as far as dragonic threats, right? They've got 80 feet of movement in the air. They have a breath weapon with a 60-foot cone. If your DM was a jerk, this dragon's only flying around you 160 feet away from you, because it only takes one dash to do that. Just constantly flying around until every single turn it can recharge its breath weapon and annihilate the whole party. It's not even fun. Like, it would not be fun, but dragons are a fantastic example of how to maximize flying as a movement speed.
Right. And then if that ever happens to you, you'll probably realize why your DM hates it.
Yes.
Maybe fly doesn't have to be the be-all, end-all for movement speeds. Maybe you could just let him glide. The Hodozi already has the glide ability, and that really helps to mitigate the constant movement upward that really just breaks combat. And if you were able to do that, it's a really nice compromise between you and your DM, you gotta admit.
100%. So now that we've been through these 5 movement types, it's obvious that the best one of all these is teleportation.
That works good. But if you like that list, everybody, and you got a suggestion for another one, leave it down in the comments, y'all. I'm Alex.
I'm Cody.
And we'll see you later. Don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe.
Bye.